This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone, and a big warm welcome to this season's edition of RaceSpotTV Friday Primetime here on the iRacing Esports Network. For the next 12 weeks, we'll be bringing you the freshest road content iRacing has to offer in the form of the Audi RS3 LMS TCR car. Well, first off here at Laguna Seca, this is the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, and it's going to be 12 full weeks of fantastic four-wheel drive touring car action, and you can see the season schedule up on screen for you now. We start off at Laguna Seca, we take a trip to the UK for Alton Park, then back across the Atlantic for Road America, and then back across it once again to Donington Park, and then you can see the rest of the rounds up on screen, culminating in a finale at the Phillip Island circuit down under there on November 29th. So absolutely fantastic tracks indeed to try and wheel these cars around. And well, I'm Connery Maddock, and joining me for this broadcast is the one, the only RaceSpotTV's touring car expert. It's going to be Mr. Paul Smith, who has a little bit of something special. This is a hot lap brought to you by VRS. Martin Kroenke behind the wheel.
So here we are then, coming through the final corner, starting your lap then, making sure you get the run at that corner, get the high speed across the line, heading towards turn of one, hugging this inside here through that little kick. That is actually turn of one, then hit the brakes a little bit earlier than you expect because it is a downhill braking section here. It's a corner that has multiple lines through that hairpin. Want to get your exit though, out to the left hand side, over the curb, use the curb on the right hand side, through the right hander there as you head on through now. Another sweeping right hander here, carry the speed through this one, use as much of that curb on the left hand side as we're heading on through to the bottom of the hill. The left hander again, fourth gear, the back end just skipping around for Martin here as he's going uphill once again. And this next corner is one of the trickiest corners in all of motorsport. The kink here, important to carry the speed through there because it's still uphill all the way here towards the top of the hill where you've got the world famous corkscrew. On the brakes you can see the back end just dances around. He's using the back end there to steer around the first part of the corkscrew. Downhill now, it's rushed downhill. Don't go all the way to the right hand side. One sweeping left-hander, get it over to the left now for the penultimate corner. Again, quite a quick right-hander here, using all of the track there, and then out to the right-hand side, hard onto the anchors. Third gear in this Audi, through that last corner and across the line. Thanks to VRS for providing us that hot lap there for you, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course, multiple-time iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series champion of Martin Kroenke to bring us a lap there in the tin top machine that this Audi LMS TCR car is, as you see some of those scenic shots over our today's venue. Well, we are coming towards the end of the qualifying session here. Currently, it is Brandon Hawking on provisional pole position. Those are the track details up on screen for you now. 73 degrees Fahrenheit on the, in the air, and 110 in terms of the track temperature. That's 43 degrees Celsius there. So things are starting to look a little bit toasty down there on circuit, thanks to the clear skies that we have here for this one. But that will actually help these drivers, at least early on in the race, Paul, trying to get those tires up to temperature.
Yeah, absolutely. These drivers having to get used to the new tyre model, so the tyres won't come into for the first 3 or 4 laps before you really start seeing those fast laps coming on. But certainly it is going to be a tricky track, this, difficult to overtake at.
Very, very difficult indeed. So your drivers are right now forming up for your grid, and it looks a little bit like this. Brandon Hawking, pole position there with a 130.317. Very slightly ahead by, well, that's going to be 15 thousandths of a second ahead of Joshua Anderson, who will end up sharing the front row with him. Cedric Nebelzek will line up P3 with Jason Stenny in P4. You look further back and you see Sebastian Dunkel there in P5 with Osin Walsh in P6. Gresham Wagner there in P7 with Tim Graven lining up in the 8th grid spot here today. Victor Albelan there in P9 with Daniel Campos rounding out your top 10 positions on this starting grid. You also have Nicholas Short there in P11 with Simeon Lynch in P12 with Jamie Wilson there, the Team Chimera driver, making the top split. He starts P13 here in this one. Jorge Augusto will start himself in the 14th spot. David Garrido Sanchez will start 15th with Marcus Girac in P16. Pierre Verne P17, Corentin Gunez in P18 with Ton Janssen rounding out your 19-car field here today. He did not set a lap time in qualifying, so that's to start right at the back of the grid here today. Having a look at the separation in terms of qualifying and the lap time as well, it's P1 to P13 separated by just 1 second here, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fast and frenetic lap around here at this WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, as the drivers now getting themselves out on the warm-up lap here. They've got a difficult task here to try and get as much heat into their tyres as possible while behind the pace car, but it just goes to show the level of competition already in this car is going to be it's mouth-watering for me. I'm looking forward to this. It's finally after, well, I joined iRacing in 2012, I finally got a touring car in the service. I'm absolutely loving this, and this is going to be sensational to watch.
Yeah, this is going to be absolutely brilliant. Just a little bit of time before we get the green flag here at Laguna Seca. It is one of the older tracks here on iRacing, so we will be getting a full pace lap. Some of the drivers will be thankful for that. More chance to get some of those weaving done, and you've got also the burnouts that a lot of drivers were trying to do, especially when it comes to their outlap in qualifying, trying to get the heat into those tires. And well, if anyone in the stream has tried the new tire model, I bet most people have, you'll know those cold tires are very, very lethal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so easy to go straight on at turn number 1 with those cold tires. It's not just the tire temperature itself, it's the fact that the pressures take a while to come into the tire as well. So they've got that combination. You can hear Joshua on the accelerator, then the brakes, accelerator, brakes. So he's trying to get as much energy into those tyres right now, but you'll see a sketchy few laps to start this race here, but they've had since Tuesday to be getting races done around here, so they've got plenty of practice in. I'm sure a few of these drivers will have been having more than just 1 or 2 starts in this car.
Yeah, as drivers, keep gaining experience with this car, keep getting used to how that front-wheel drive system works with the new tyre model. But there we go. Down on towards the pit lane goes the pace car, then field under the control of Brandon Hawking as they round around the final corner. And Hawking, he decides to go very, very early. We are green flag racing. We are TCR touring car racing here on RaceSpotTV. A good jump for your race leader, but it's a big battle here coming down in towards turn number 1 for P2. Nebelzek on the inside of Anderson. There's almost a bit of contact between the two of them in towards the Mariandretti hairpin for the first time. A little bit further back, you have a bit of leaning going on. Tim Graven and Gresham Wagner were side by side through the first complex. There's a car that's just slightly wide into the dirt right at the back of the field. No one having any big dramas just yet as your leaders will file. Then we have 3 wide further back in the field though. Campos, Lynch and Augusto, but they'll all sort out their differences by the time turn 4 arrives.
Yeah, absolutely. Battle for the lead then. Hawking having to try and hang on to this one. Nebelski getting a good good launch off the start of this one. We've got a car off into the gravel further back. That's Augusto, but you've got a new leader here, Nabelski. What a first lap from him.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff. Starting from that second row of the grid, gained 2 positions already by the time half a lap is done, up into P1. So you can see that Team RSO car leading the pack around right now, and Brandon Hawkins trying to give chase, but Nebelzek's had an absolute monster of an opening lap here. He's got a good couple of car lengths gap back to second place already. So we'll have to see if Hawkins is able to close that one up. But in towards the final corner here for the first time, one of the big braking zones here at Laguna Seca, where you can have it, you sling it down the inside if you're close enough, and cross the line to complete lap number 1. Then your race leader has about 6.5 tenths of a second gap over P2 at this stage. And now coming down in towards turn 1 for the second time. No big moves being made. A big concertina, in fact, though, for that final podium spot between the likes of Anderson, Stenny, and Dunkel all in this train.
Yeah, absolutely. Dunkel at the back of this one there. See how these drivers having to be a little bit patient on the throttle, but they do have to keep some throttle on though around the corner. It's going to sound odd, but you need throttle around the corner to pull the front end of the car around with the differential on this car around those corners. So drivers attacking the curbs here early on. They're really trying to get a feel for this one, as we've lost one driver further down. No, just a few issues. Daniel Campos battling away side by side with Augusto, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of contact in towards the kink. That's Augusto pushed out all the way wide into the dirt and into the gravel. And, well, what's the usual advice to try and save these front-wheel drive cars, Paul?
Bury the throttle and just go for it. That's what you do. That's the beauty of these cars. We've got a slow-down penalty for the Craig's setup shop car, Tim Greven then. So he's had an issue at the corkscrew, cut across the corner. So easy to do around this track. And, well, we've got plenty of battling further down in your field. But up front, Cedric Nabelski, great run to be out in the lead by 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, that's quite a gap at the end of the second lap there. Your race leader starting to run away with things very, very early on. We'll have to see if he's taking a little bit too much out here early on and might end up not really being on the pace later on in the race. We'll just have to wait and see. But meanwhile, it is still a close run thing further back through your field, especially for a good couple of these positions, sort of way towards the tail end of the grid, with the likes of Graven, Sanchez, and Elbelon as well. But no big moves being made yet. It seems like everyone, with the exception of a couple of bits of contact here and there, it's all been very calm, and we're not afraid of a couple of bits of contact here in touring cars.
This thing's built like a tank. I found that out last night running a league. So these drivers, they've got plenty to work with, and this Audi doing a fantastic job of giving us close action. Not the strongest of slipstreams from this car, and it does mean that you've got to work at getting your lines right, getting your tyres up to temperature, but it's also about looking after those tyres a little bit. A 30-minute race, towards the end of the race, those front tyres will just not be giving the same amount of bite as you would have been getting, say, after 10 minutes of the race.
New fastest lap being set by Gresham Wagner. So that is your driver sitting in P number 6, setting the fastest lap of anyone. And, well, it's around about 0.3 of a second faster than what your race leader is even running at this stage. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on here, is the driver of number 6 as he works his way up through the field. We've got a little bit of side-by-side further back, though. Sanchez on the outside. Here comes Ton Janssen, then inside the line there for turn 3. A big block there from Sanchez is coming off the corner. That's Eberlen trying to work his way through. A bit of contact, bit of wheel arch to wheel arch contact, but they both make it through alive and get themselves down into turn 5.
You can throw one down the inside into there, but it's not really the biggest of braking zones. So Abelan just deciding, do you know what, I'll hang back for the time being, get the good run through the kink, Here we go. Look at that line through the kink. Much better than the driver in front. You can see the run that he's got, and he's having to go to the outside, heading in towards the corkscrew. He's going to make it through. Great drive there. Oh, back end around. That's going to be a slowdown penalty, and here comes the 12th car. He's had an issue as well. Around he goes, and that's not what to do in this touring car.
Yeah, it was a big, bold move at the corkscrew, going around the outside for the first apex. Such commitment, and a little bit too much commitment, it has to be said. You can just see the driver ahead having a good couple of issues. Shunt there, shunt to Campos as well. He spins all the way around and gets cycled towards the back of your field. It does cause a little bit more carnage behind as drivers had to scatter across the racetrack to try and avoid that one. So big drama inside your mid-pack here today. And we do have still that battle at the front of the field. Not immediately at the front, it's just the battle for the final 2 podium spots here. Joshua Anderson in P3 trying to track down Hawkin, with Stenny and Dunkel also involved in this battle as it stands, but not much has changed between this in this train. So just setting the pace here in the early goings. We still have about 23 minutes remaining.
Yeah, plenty of time for this one yet, so yeah, anything could happen in this race. And well, touring car racing, we've seen what can happen here early on as they're going into the corkscrew once again. Look at the amount of dirt and dust that's getting dragged on to the track as well at the corkscrew. So these drivers are pushing the limits of the track here, and showing how difficult it is to overtake around here as well. There's not that many opportunities to overtake, but certainly keeping pushing hard. You've got to think the long game here, especially if you're going for that top 3.
Yeah, and since, of course, you have done a good couple of races already here in these cars, Paul, maybe you can shine a little bit of light in terms of the late race performance of some of these cars, because we have had, you know, a couple of drivers say that these tyres, if you go and abuse them this early on in the race, then they do come back to bite you by the time the checkered flag comes out. Yeah,
absolutely. We've got the positions gained there. Look at that, Nabelski into the lead and sit up 2 positions. Verne, though, with the biggest gain, 7 positions in this race. But yeah, it's all about a trade-off. Do you want to have an immediate good start and try and run away with it if you're near the front? Or, oh, we got a car sideways. Ooh. That was Wagner then, who was going sideways there. We'll get a replay of that from our aerial coverage brought to you by Amwan Designs, as always. As well, it was into this left-hander, and what happens here? Just gets a wheel on the dirt there. Oh, give it a boot full of throttle, sunshine. There we go. And pulls the front end around and carries on, losing 1 position there.
Yeah, absolutely. Still a big scary moment there down into turn 5 for Wagner. He was running very well. We mentioned that he did set one of the fastest laps of the race just a little bit, well, a good couple of laps ago, but unfortunately with a little bit of a half spin like that, he does get cycled back quite a considerable margin, despite having only lost 1 position here in this one. Riding on board, though, the car of Jason Stenny, I believe, here coming down in towards... this is Anderson. Here we go. A big lock in towards turn 1 over your second place runner. Not enough commitment down the inside there, and, well, the door was also rapidly shutting. Here comes the inside move then for turn 3. Anderson on the inside of Hawkin. Hawkin gives him the space and a little bit more as well. He might even come under threat from Stenny on the way down into turn 4, so that Craig setup shop car trying to find the traction coming on the inside of turn 4, not able to find the position gains though into turn 5. Big run there for Stenny. Look at him riding the back bumper of the Audi up the hill, then up towards that left hand kink. A big look there from Stenny, but a committed move down the inside at the kink isn't on the cards just yet, especially when we're this early on.
You can't really go too wide through the kink, can you? You compromise both of your runs through there, onto the brakes, into the corkscrew. because of that rise that you get just at the start, the breaking point of the corkscrew, the back end goes light and goes loose, so these drivers having to combat that as well as they come downhill once again. Penultimate corner, it's got that nice little dip there in the middle of it. That means that you're able to use that to your advantage, but Stenny, he got the fastest lap on that last lap. The fuel's starting to get burnt off here now, so these drivers and the tyres are up to temperature and pressures now, so we're now getting to see the true pace of these drivers. And well, another fastest lap this time for Anderson, a 30.2.
Yeah, absolutely finding a little bit of clear space, some clear air there in P2 as he puts a gap here over this battle for P3, because they have been squabbling quite a bit on that last lap. And now Stenny's getting pretty close once again. We have got Wagner, who's trying to recover from his little bit of a half spin just a couple of moments ago, quickly closing in there on Simeon Lynch for what is going to be P number 8 out there on circuit.
He was a little bit closer on my timing screen than that then, I will say. So yeah, cut to him right at the most opportune moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, back towards your battle for your final podium spot then, Stenny. He's been in this position for a good lap or so, hasn't had the most obvious of opportunities to make his way by, and his rear view is now going to be very, very full of that RaceSport esports car of Sebastian Dunkel. So now he has to be looking ahead and behind, one of the more tricky situations to be in as a driver, where you have to be good at multitasking in that respect. But in towards the final corner, Hawkin has had a good final sector here, able to pull out that gap. Meanwhile, Dunkel, he seems to be on fire at this stage of the race as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 5th place at the moment, started in 5th as well, so he's not gained any positions, but he's not lost any positions. Crucially, Joshua Anderson, he's on a bit of a form here, 0.3 of a second faster than your race leader. Simeon Lynch as well, with the fastest lap of 1:30.1. So he's definitely putting the pressure on the race leader. That lead is coming down. It's about 1 second at the moment, so I wouldn't count out that fight yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. So things starting to develop here inside the midway point of this race. Of course, a 30-minute race. We're coming up to 17 minutes remaining here in this one. Just having a little bit of an update on your race leader, because Anderson is closing in at this stage. A good couple of tenths of a second being taken out on that last lap. 0.3 of a second pretty much on that last lap. So Nebelschek, has he taken too much out of the tires here inside the first 6 or 7 laps?
Well, this is it. This is what the point I started making before I got interrupted by these drivers giving us this exciting action. But you've got that compromise. Do you go for the car at the start of the race to try and pull out that gap, but then run the risk of using the tyres up too early too soon? Or do you set up that car to be a little bit more conservative, give you more consistency throughout the race, and therefore be able to push all the way through and gain that time back towards the end there? 8 to 7/10 of a second is now the gap between the lead two, so getting closer between those two, and this battle is still raging on for 3rd place, and Brandon Hawkin doing a sterling effort there in the Simicube car at the front of this pack.
Another 0.4 of a second gain there on that last lap by Joshua Anderson when it comes to your race leader. And while he's starting to very much pull away from this battle here for P number 3, Brandon Hawkin trying his best to pull a gap in between himself and the cars behind. He's doing a decent job at it right now. He's keeping the threat neutralized that Stenny and Dunkel pose right now. I think in Stenny's head that he's going to be more concerned about Dunkel behind, because he's been looking infinitely more threatening in that RaceSport esports car. And then on the way up towards the corkscrew there, not really the best of runs there through the kink for Dunkel, so he's not going to have any opportunity here in towards the corkscrew, but goes very deep on the brakes indeed. Brings himself close, but again, not a good run off. So Stenny will keep him at bay just for now. So we're at the midway point here, Paul. And wow, we have battling behind as well. That's through the corkscrew. That's Tim Graven versus Pierre Vern. So that's Vern on the outside, Graven on the inside here for the rainy curve. Turn 9. You're actually on the limit of grip coming through there. Graven able to squeak himself ahead of Pierre Vern. And now here comes Jamie Wilson. He wants a piece of this pie as well. Big outside line being taken, looking for the run off the corner of the final one of the lap here at Laguna Seca. Not going to get the traction, not going to get the run, but the one thing that he does have is the slipstream on the way in towards the Mario Andretti hairpin. So Wilson,
contact.
There's still a chance here. Contact further up your field though. That's Jason Stenny going for a bit of an off-track excursion. Dunkel, a little bit of a love tap to the rear while all that tries to sort itself out. But what has happened there?
All of a sudden, we're just getting halfway point in this race and everything's kicking off. The lead battle's 0.3 of a second between them. You've got this battle has got a bit of door rubbing going on. You've got the battle between Pierre Vern and Jamie Wilson. That's still going on. All of a sudden, this race has really come alive here in this one. And this is what we were expecting here. Wilson with the RaceSpot logos on his car, so can confirm 0.2 of a second faster a lap, but bouncing over the curb there. You can see how light the rear end of that car is. Those rear tyres there only to keep the back of the car from dragging on the ground. And here comes Abelan now as well, and Wilson. So this battling further down isn't going to end quite yet.
Yeah, Abelan trying to find the braking point. There's contact. Jamie Wilson swings that car back around, doesn't spin right around. He still will have to take a slowdown penalty going across the corkscrew like that, but he will live to fight another day. Meanwhile, there is your race lead battle just going by on the pit straight there. There's contact behind though. A driver heavily into the wall. Sebastian Dunkel, huge moment.
And Orson Walsh as well was involved in that one. Craziness happening here. We'll have to get a replay of this incident. We'll cut to the lead battle if we need to, but it was a late move into the final corner from Wilson. He kept his nose in there. Now what happens with Dunkel? He's just trying, he's coming across. Oh, I thought that was just, yeah, Dunkel should have held his line in my opinion. I thought Walsh held his line in that one, but we'll get back to that lead battle because this one is heating up. Business is picking up here, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely. Nebelzek not finding the pace here in the mid-race. A very good run through the King for Anderson, trying to find a car with the space on that inside on the way up towards the corkscrew. Unsuccessful in doing so, but that Team RSO car seemingly not as quick as it was in the early stages of the race. Really starting to struggle now as this race goes on, and Anderson starting to come alive now. He did start on that front row. Don't forget, he started P2, but he wants that top step of the podium here inside the final 12 minutes of this race. On the brakes then in towards that very slow final corner of turn 11. We are battling behind though. Lynch has just been able to get himself past Jason Stenny in the background, but we'll keep with this battle for the race lead then. And well, Joshua Anderson, it's a big inside line defensive move there from Nebelzek down into the hairpin, and Anderson, you can just see how close he's keeping that Team RSO car, completely just keeping that nose of the car pressed right up against this one, but big send towards the inside for the race lead then for Anderson. A big wide line was taken by Nebelzek, but he can't find the traction, the speed off the corner, and now Anderson is your new race leader. I
think Nebelzek realises that he was done for there. I think he's maybe tried to pull away at the start of this race to get the gap there at the front. And he did get a gap, but it wasn't big enough. And there you go, Anderson just with that slow burner just to pull through. And you can see how Anderson's just now able to just creep away from Nebelzek. So the question is now behind. Well, they are slower than these two, the cars behind. So Nebelzek can focus in front totally at the moment, try and keep with Anderson, but you can see Anderson a little bit of trail braking, left foot braking around that left-hander, using the back end, and that's one of the key things with this car as well. You use the back end, get the back end working with you to help turn this car, and he's doing exactly that through these long radius corners.
Yeah, I mean, even the slower ones as well. He was braking all the way to the apex there, trying to get that car turned around there for Anderson. Seems like it's working well for him at this stage. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, you have the battle for P10. This is Vern versus Augusto. So Vern going to be on the defensive here, perhaps, in towards turn 1, because Augusto kept it very close coming off the final corner. So we'll see a big send outside, inside line here for Augusto. Which one does he choose? Angles towards the inside, doesn't go deep enough on the brakes to be able to slot his car in. A bit of a love tap through the middle of the corner, which is what we love to see, and Vern stays ahead.
I don't think Vern will appreciate that, but yeah.
Well, we love to see it. He probably doesn't.
It was the smallest of touches. It was just a slight rub, that's all. But that's what you expect in touring car racing. But yeah, these drivers, even though they're down in 10th and 11th place, still battling it out. Looking forward, actually, a battle raging here between Gresham Wagner, who of course had that mistake earlier on, is now back up to 6th place, and he's trying to push forward. He's 3.5 seconds behind Cerny, so I don't think that's going to be on, but he's got the pressure from behind of Oisin Walsh.
Yeah, he does. So he does have to be concerned about trying to defend a good couple of moves here once that car decides to get itself just a little bit closer. You can see the gap up on screen for you right now. Gresham Wagner and Walsh, we've got 4.5 tenths of a second between those two as they head into the final corner. So still a lot of work here for Walsh to do. He's tucked very well inside the slipstream there. He does lose a little bit of time coming through that final corner, but he's going to gain all that back on the run down towards 1.
He was hitting the rev limiter a little bit as well. I think some of these drivers aren't quite used to when they need to, it's not quite muscle memory yet, is the gear changing. So I think these drivers are still getting used to this car. Of course, only got launched on Thursday last week. So to say it's such a short amount of time, these drivers are doing one heck of a job in this car and really giving us a good show. As Walsh now really putting the pressure on here. Won't look to the inside here, just try and carry the speed through the corner as you go uphill once again. But Walsh putting the pressure on, and that's what you can do around here. He's got enough of a gap behind to just keep that pressure on here through the kink up towards the corkscrew once again.
Don't think he's going to be close enough this time into the corkscrew to be able to make anything out of this one. Just has to stay in line for now. But I do feel like that car of Walsh does have quite a bit of pace, but hasn't really been able to show it just yet. And well, once he gets into a position where he can have a little bit of a go at Wagner, maybe we'll start this in one this time. If he gets a good exit out of the final turn, then that'll set up the move there into the big braking zone at the first point of the lap. There's your top 8 on your screen for you now. Just briefly, Joshua Anderson, Nebelsick, Hawkin, Lynch, Stenny, Wagner, and Walsh, with Nicholas Short rounding out your top 8. But Walsh then in towards turn 1, gonna have a little bit of a look, but he won't commit to the move down the inside. It was just a big, body language, just a little bit of a message sent there to the car ahead. It's like, yeah, I'm ready here, I'm ready to race.
I'll bring it back here on replay, going into turn number 1, and this is Simeon Lynch, who's been able to get up into 3rd place now ahead of Brandon Hawkin. And it's just a move down the inside into the hairpin there, double apex hairpin. Nicely done there. So obviously set up his car towards the end of the race. Started 12th place, up into a podium position, Simeon.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff to work his way through a very, very difficult field here today. With the strength of field, if you're wondering, is standing at 4,933 is the average I rating for the drivers in your field here today. And Walsh now has potentially an opportunity there on Wagner into the corkscrew, but not going to happen this time around as they go through the dirt that's been brought onto the circuit by a good couple of drivers running wide through that section. Similarly so coming through turn 9 of Rainy Curve as well. So the dynamic track just making things a little bit more interesting there coming through as the dirt gets strewn across the racetrack. But now on towards the end of lap 16, then 5.5 minutes left remaining in this one, and by my calculations around about 4 laps left to go. Joshua Anderson as your race leader, well, he's being kept honest right now by Seca, so he's been able to at least find some form of pace here behind the wheel of that car for the latter portion of this race. But with the lap times he's been running right now, I don't think it's going to be enough for him to reply in terms of the race win here today. But we still got these great battles here in this mid-pack, and this is one of them. Wagner versus Walsh, P6 and P7. You can see on the lap time deltas, though, that Walsh just lost a fraction amount of time there, just half a tenth of a second on that last lap, but not really going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
No, absolutely not. We've got another close battle behind as well. That's Greven versus O'Short into the left-hander here, and trying to get the cutback is O'Short. That's not going to work at that point. So two drivers pretty close together here for 8th and 9th. Not that far behind that battle for 6th place. It's really heating up here now. Walsh going on the aggression.
Yeah, big move, or big look, shall I say, coming up into the corkscrew. But I have to feel that he's not really, you know, it's sort of in that awkward situation, Paul, where you get that slight run, you feel like you can go for it, but again, it's just still a little bit too far back, but not this time in towards turn 1. A lot of space given there by Wagner on that outside line. He won't have the best of runs off the corner either. He tucks back in line into the slipstream to give him the best chance possible at repassing his competition into turn 1. Outside, inside, gets caught in 2 minds, and that means he just has to back out with a move that's Walsh through.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit wide open, a bit of a gimme there for Walsh, but maybe Wagner thinking the bigger game. Although saying that, Walsh on for a big I-rating gain here. Car number 19, he was the 19th car on the grid of this 19-car grid, and he's up there in 6th place, so he's going to be feeling really good about this race. And we've only lost 2 drivers in this race, Sebastian Dunkel and Daniel Campos, so 17 cars still running in this 19-car field. That's a good attrition rate here, considering it's our first week of the Friday prime time covering the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone keeping it clean, and the bits of contact that we have seen, or most of the bits of the contact that we have seen, have been par for the course for TCR Racing. So great job to the vast majority of the drivers in your field. Sebastian Dunkel will be, well, you know, he'll be thinking maybe my incident was, wasn't the fairest of ones coming down the pit straight, but he did come across and try to push the driver towards the pit wall in that situation. So that incident was more of his own doing in that one. But 5.5 tenths of a second between Walsh and Wagner, and now Wagner trying to keep up with his competitor after Walsh was able to get through on that previous lap, but it seems like he's starting to fall away here in the late race as well.
Absolutely. Once again, positions gained up on the left-hand side of the screen, so you can see how things have changed throughout this race. And Lynch up to 9th place here in this one. Fantastic drive from him. Vern up 6 positions, Augusto up 4 positions as well, and your first and second place up positions as well. So Hawkin, not the best start here in this one, down in 4th place, and he's just seemed to have fallen away in this one because he's, what, 2 seconds behind 3rd place now, Simeon Lynch. He's really not had the pace in the second half of the race here.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. I mean, things looked a little bit better on that last lap. He did gain a couple of tenths over Seca in P2, but unfortunately for him, not enough to be able to do anything right at the end of this race. And, well, one of the closest battles that we have on track right now, in fact, the closest battle, is Ton Janssen versus Corentin Guinness there. So the Benelux driver versus the Frenchman on the way up towards the corkscrew. 4 tenths of a second between these guys, and well, it's going to be the case for these. It's like basically this is a battle of losing the least I rating, I suppose, when you talk about battles this far back through the field at this late stage.
Well, I mean, Janssen is in the position that his car number is. He didn't set a qualifying time in the qualifying session as well. So I think Janssen's just maybe getting used to the car a little bit still, and look at how close Guinness now getting to the back of that car. But timer is running out. In fact, we should be on, I think, the last lap of the race. Or maybe it's going to be tight.
Yeah, it is going to be tight.
I think
36
it will be
seconds.
The last one.
Yeah, I think this will be, my timing screen is saying so, but sometimes that has, baited me on more than one occasion, so I won't say things are final right now. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't me,
No,
that was Will, but there we go. But yeah, sometimes these things do fail us, but I think this, with 15 seconds remaining and Anson's just coming into the corkscrew right now, this is the final lap of the race. So what a performance then from Joshua Anderson. He did fall back a little bit on lap number 1 of this event. He started on that front row, but he's able to recover it through the middle and towards the end of the race, just taking it a bit easy in the early going, and he made those tires survive all the way to the end. Into the final corner then for Joshua Anderson. One more traction zone to go, and it's a straight run towards the finish line here. Joshua Anderson wins your first ever TCR race here on RaceSpotTV in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Cedric Nubelsic finishes in P2 with Simeon Lynch coming across the line. A fantastic performance for him. Starting P12, he gets himself up to P3. A big close run thing across the line further back through the field, though. We have a battle coming out of that final corner, though. Jamie Wilson just able to hold on to that position over Pierre Verne there, and gets himself up into P number 11. And then further back, the battle between Janssen and Guinness results in Janssen coming across the line first, narrowly over his competition. So that is everyone across the start-finish line now. We are done for our first race.
Yeah, absolutely loved that one. It was brilliant to watch, and well, we've got enough for 11 weeks of this, Conrad.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it, especially with some of the battles that we had in the early goings of the race. But those are your official race results up on screen. Joshua Anderson wins by 1.6 seconds over Nubelsic, and Simeon Lynch comes home on that final podium spot here today. Brandon Hawkin, your pole position sitter, only good enough for P number 4 when it comes to the actual racing here today. Jason Sterney finishes in P5 with Austin Walsh finishing in P6. Grayson Wagner finishes 7th with Tim Graven in 8th. Nicholas Short will end up in P9 with Jorge Augusto rounding out your top 10 positions. Jamie Wilson finishes in P11 with Pierre Verne 12th. Victor Abelan P13 with Tom Jensen in 14th. Guinness, we've got Garrido Sanchez, Jerac Dunkel, and Daniel Campos rounding out your 19 car field here today. In terms of the finishing results, we will take a short break here on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network, but join us in a couple of moments' time where we'll have a little bit of a chat in terms of a post-race show. Hello everyone and welcome back to the post-race show here on RaceSpotTV. We've just had our first ever TCR race with that new Audi here on the iRacing service, and what an interesting race it was, especially in the early goings where everyone was stacked up together trying to jostle for position. We also had a little bit of not pit strategy, but sort of tire conservation strategy going on, with some of the drivers taking it a little bit easy in the early goings to make sure that their tires survive the distance in terms of the tire temperatures. And well, Paul, I think that's a decent advert for the new TCR car.
Absolutely, it's given us some great racing there in this one, and the season's only going to get better as these drivers learn more and more about the car. And you're going to see those that adapt quickly up in the front now, but you maybe see some other people start coming through in the fields as the season goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a good couple of drivers in getting themselves ready to do an interview. We'll just bring Simeon Lynch up into the commentary booth right now. He finishes on that final step of the podium here, Paul. That is a fantastic run from P12 on the grid. He's standing by with you.
Yeah, so here we are, Simeon. Well, starting off in 12th place, I mean, not the best of qualifying sessions. It looks like you invalidated your second lap there, but to then come through the field, storming race from yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, I took an off track on turn 2, I think, so I messed up the second lap. I would have been P5, I think, if I hadn't have done that, so I would have had to avoid getting the elbows out and coming for the field. I mean, considering I finished like 4 seconds off, I'm a bit annoyed, but, yeah, it's one of those things to learn on.
Well, this is it, because it is, as we've been saying in the commentary. You won't have heard it, but this is, you guys have only had the car since Thursday last week, so you're all learning this car. Nobody's got setups. You're all having to work on setups. Just how are you finding the challenges and the of this car, especially with the new tyre model?
I'm not sure really. I'm usually a quick learner, so I sort of get used to how the car handles. And I think, like you say, a lot of people are getting used to the new car, the new tyre model, how the tyres drop off throughout the race, especially in this heat as well. So, like you say, it's early days, the car's been out for a week, so a lot of people are just learning. And I expect people to get better throughout the season, really.
Well, that's it. I mean, we've got a really sort of varied season. We've got Alton Park coming up next, which is my all-time favourite track. How are you sort of looking at that? Because, British track, British driver, surely you're going to do well there.
To tell you the truth, I don't actually own Alton Park.
What?
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, so... we'll see. I might have to buy it for next week, though.
There's no might. You will buy it, and you will compete, and you will do well in it. It's a fantastic track, though. But looking at the season as a whole, though, because of course it's only your top 8 weeks that count towards the championship. It's a good start to your season. How have you been finding this first week? Has it been good for you, or have you had a few sort of little nightmares along the way?
No, it's been pretty good. Like I say earlier, a lot of people are getting used to the car, so I've just been trying to take advantage of, people who are struggling a bit. But yeah, we got some good tracks coming up, really. Like Donington, even Monza, really. I know Monza's going to be really tough, so yeah, it's quite varied, the schedule.
Well, I mean, thank you very much for joining us. We didn't know whether anybody would join us on the broadcast here, but before you go, anyone you want to give a quick mention to whilst you're on?
No, not really. I mean, pure driving school. They put out like setups and stuff for like various cars and stuff. So yeah, they did a good one this week.
Well, thank you very much, Simeon, and congratulations on the podium result.
Alright, cheers.
Back to you, Connery.
Yeah, there we go. A big run from 12th place on the grid into the final step, or onto the final step of the podium there for Simeon Lynch. He has a good couple of Twitch fans in the chat, which is nice to see, but we have another driver waiting to get themselves an interview. It's Ocean Walsh, or as his, basically that's his alter ego, I suppose. It's Dave Walsh in the commentary booth, and, well, you ended up finishing P6 here today, exactly where you started, but you still had a decent battle with Wagner towards the end.
Yeah, it probably could have been better. I didn't set a great quality lap. I probably could have had a couple extra tenths. And then the race, I got hit in turn 1, which I think lost me a couple spots, but it wasn't too bad. I was still able to recover. I think I had fairly good pace. I was maybe 3rd or 4th quickest in track, from what I could tell. And then obviously, not gonna lie, I just got wrecked by Dunkel. That didn't help. I think I lost about 6 seconds from that, but for some reason and somehow got no damage. So I think it cost me 2 spots, but I mean, really, Simeon would have got past me anyway, so it was just a spot. But it was kind of annoying. I probably could have gotten Jason Staney. I was right on his door, or right in his gearbox coming to the line, so one more lap would have had him, but I'll take it since I've gained about 500 iRating this week, so I probably shouldn't complain about that.
Seems to be so often the case. Just one more lap to make the move work, but the iRacing gods do not shine happily on you today in terms of that one. But with some of the interesting in terms of, well, we brought up the topic during the broadcast of keeping those tires cool, keeping those tires in good condition, shall we say, for the end of the race. It seems like you guys sometimes fight with trying to warm them up initially, and then once it comes towards the end of the race, they're starting to get a little bit too sketchy sometimes when you're pushing them hard. How is it trying to manage the car and try and keep it within that sweet spot in terms of the tire temp?
I've never had a problem overheating the tires. At the end of the race, it's always fine. I always feel like I'm quicker compared to everyone else at the end of the race, but for me, I am terrible at heating them up. The first couple laps, I can always notice I'm a little bit down on pace. I just have not got them up to temperature. And I think in quali too, I'm not doing as good of a job as I should, actually getting them heated up. So I think that's the most difficult part. But then once you have them up to temperature, I think they kind of stay there. It's not too hard to overheat them. It's just some people's setups I've noticed. I think it's the setup at least, because I doubt it's the driver, but I think it's the setup. And they just drop back because they've just run out of grip by the end of the race. But I've not had that kind of trouble.
Would you say it's your driving style that actually allows you to do that?
I don't know. I don't think I'm usually too bad on tires, but I don't think I'm usually fairly average. It might be, but I don't know, because I know I used to really burn up the front tires, and now I'm kind of scared to do that, and I always try and avoid it kind of naturally. So it might be that, but really I think it's set up, because I've been competing this week with people who I should not be competing with.
Well, if you found something that a lot of drivers haven't, then you're quite right to be able to use that to your advantage and get yourself a good couple of race results here through this season. Are you looking to compete for all 12 weeks? And if so, what track on the schedule are you looking forward to the most?
I probably will do all 12 weeks. I wouldn't expect to be going for a championship or anything like that, but I just like the car, so I'd say I'll give it a shot. I'm not even sure what the rest of the schedule is. I know it's Alton Park next week, which is a good track, and then other than that, I don't even know what's on the circuit or on the calendar. So I'll probably drive anything, to be honest, in this car. It's quite fun, so I'll just give it a shot and see how it goes.
Well, there we go. We wish you the best of luck in doing so. That was the number 19 Walsh finishing in P6, exactly where he started there. Paul, finding a little bit of, tire life in terms of the setup, driving style, whatever you want to ascribe to it, still does well when it comes to the racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great effort there. And it just goes to show how different setups and different driving styles can affect the car throughout the race. And we saw some dropping off, whereas we saw some coming through towards the end. And we heard there asking about the schedule. There you go. We're having a look at it once again. As we mentioned, it is Alton Park next time out. A tricky track. It's a very tight track as well, so could see instance of plenty there. Road America, always a fun one. Long long straights there, be able to use a slipstream. Donington Park's National Circuit, that's a classic touring car venue. I'm looking forward to that one. Road Atlanta as well. A lot of people underrate that track. It is a very enjoyable one. The club layout at Barcelona, along with Mid-Ohio, and then Monza, as was mentioned there earlier on, absolute flat out, and it's all about the run out the chicanes. Lime Rock, again, that always produces really good touring car action with Zandvoort, Mossport, and as you mentioned, Connery, what better track to finish off with than Phillip Island?
Yeah, that one's going to be a pretty fun finale, it has to be said. Of course, a really a track that does really encourage very, very close racing, some bumping, some banging, coming through some of the slow speed corners in the middle of the lap. Once you dive down that hill into one of the big braking zones, it's a really scary portion of the racetrack. But that is all that we're going to have time for here on the first week of this edition of RaceSpotTV Friday Primetime here on the iRacing Esports Network. Thank you for all the viewers on Twitch. Thank you for all the viewers on YouTube as well. I've been Connery Maddock. That's been Paul Smith. Join us at the exact same time next week. Goodbye.